will get it started. I'm Margaret Tandoh. I'm a trauma surgeon here at UVMMC. So that's the University of Vermont Medical Center, and then we have the medical school at the University of Vermont. I'm also the associate dean for diversity, equity, inclusion here, and we have a burn program, not so much a center, but I direct that too. So I think this idea, I want to start off by thanking Sue and Steve, who lead the Burlington Church of Christ, because I think this was their vision to have a health empowerment weekend in Burlington. And when they started talking about it, I was like, oh, my students could benefit from that. My students being my medical students. So it was last April, we actually planned for this. So I was inviting the Student National Medical Association. And that's mostly African American students. And then we expanded it. We have a Latino Medical Association and Asian American and Pacific Islander Association. And we also have a social justice coalition with various ethnicities. So invited them because, medical school it has continued to be stressful. And I was like, we have some great talents that can give some wisdom. So I was like, how can my students get involved? And so that's how this night evolved, just inviting our students. Unfortunately, my first year students are on spring break. The second year students are really third year and they're in clerkship. And then our fourth year, we don't know where they are. They usually are. They are everywhere. But I see we have a few people on tonight, and I was thinking we go around and briefly introduce ourselves. We do have time when we have a small enough group. So let's start with. I'll call up because I'll start with the way my Zoom panels appear. I'll start with Kevin.
Okay. Well, hey, first of all, thank you so much, Margaret, for hosting us, and Steve and Sue for setting everything up. It's just always great to see healthcare professionals in the making or having been made or wherever we're at in life. So my name is Kevin Broyles. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. I work in the urgent care group with the Wellstar Medical Group, which is a very large healthcare group in Atlanta. I serve as a lead physician for 2 of the practices and on the board for the urgent care here. And so, do you want me to go into the past or is?
No, that's good.
Perfect.
All right, Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a member of the Burlington Church of Christ, just here to tag along, and I'm also I'm running the Zoom tonight, so I'll make sure everybody gets to speak in their turn. Thanks for letting me join, Margaret.
Yeah, and what kind of work do you do, Peter?
I work selling enterprise software solutions to large distribution companies in the East.
So he's like this engineer kind of guy. All right, Carol.
Hi, my name is Carol Gill. Actually, I prefer to go by the name McMara, which is what I like to use. But anyway, I am I'm in New Jersey, and I serve as the department chair of the Spinal Cord Medicine Department at the VA New Jersey Healthcare System. I am adjunct professor at the Rutgers New Jersey Medical School, of which I am a graduate. I trained there, medical school residence and fellowship. I'm really homegrown in New Jersey. And I'm really excited to be here to share with the group a few things that I think that helped me during my journey. Thank you.
Awesome. Sue and Steve.
Yeah, well, it's just an honor to be in the presence of some heroes, but I think Steve and I's favorite thing is to try to bring people together for a common cause. It just builds up a community, and this has been such a wonderful one to be able to think about UVM. I coach a competitive swim program down the street, the Y. I've watched kind of what's happened this last year, and it's just an honor to be able to kind of connect and kind of help people feel like they get some tools to equip and empower them to be better. And I'm not a medical person, but it is an honor to be able to kind of learn from everybody else and kind of bring my own gifts to it, but also get to have the privilege to learn from so many people. So yeah, I'm with this guy.
Awesome.
You know, Sue and I have worked a lot with college students over the years, and I think it always just makes a lot of sense to us to, you know, to bring people back to speak to the college students about kind of how they did it and the different challenges they faced and how they overcame, because there's so much wisdom there and there's so much heart there that I think really helps us all. And especially the college students as they're trying to figure out their career, figure out their path. And we kind of just went through that with our daughter going through nursing school and, you know, and passing her NCLEX, and now she's a nurse in Atlanta. But we realized there's some kind of special challenges, you know, in that whole, in the medical field as you're training to be a professional. And so it just made a lot of sense to us to get the people that we admire and respect so much for all the ways you've served and, you know, and excelled in your in your profession, and to help us to benefit from a lot of your earned wisdom over the years. So thanks for having this, Margaret. Thanks for doing what you do over at UVM. And I'm thinking this is going to really be a special night and a special weekend.
Thank you, Stephen. Sue. Maria?
Hi, I'm Maria Kenny. I'm part of the Burlington Church of Christ. My job occupation is working actually in a kindergarten room. I'm a teacher's helper there. And so I'm, you know, you're working with college students. I'm working with the beginning of school. And they are very entertaining. And I can see some of them going towards the medical profession already.
Great. Marcus?
So hello, it's definitely an honor to be able to come and speak to young, aspiring people going into healthcare or already in healthcare. And I'm a practicing cardiologist. I have initially trained at the GW Medical School and then went to UNC Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels, and did my postgraduate training there in cardiology. And now I'm in solo private practice in Ridgewood, New Jersey. And certainly I'm happy to be able to share anything that might be helpful with anyone about my journey along the way.
Excellent. Noelle?
Yeah, hi. Really, I'm here just as Kevin's wife and delighted to be here because I love learning and love learning from all ages, and all of you guys are my heroes. And but my background is in nursing and pediatric orthopedic oncology, but I don't work in that capacity anymore, but just here to listen and learn. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Kai?
Hey, yeah, my name is Kai. I am a member of the Burlington Church of Christ, and I'm also a student at Vermont Law School.
Law, medicine, you can use some of the same things, you know, Kai.
Right, exactly. I'm really looking forward to it.
Right. Keegan?
Hi, I'm Keegan. I'm a student at UVM and a member of Burlington Church of Christ. I'm studying to go to law school. Also, just took the LSAT.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Looking forward to learning a lot.
Yay. Yay. Nicole?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole. As she mentioned, I'm a first-year medical student at UVM Alcom. I love gaining wisdom from those who have been through this before, so that's why I'm definitely insisted on making time to be here. So thank you for doing this and setting this up.
Awesome. Janet?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Janet, and I am from North Carolina, just in the Triangle Church of Christ, actually, but moved to Philadelphia after graduating. Just finished undergrad last year, and am currently deciding between medical schools in this week. So we'll be matriculating in the coming months.
Oh, awesome! Yay!
Yeah. So here to learn as much as I can from you guys. Thank you for setting this up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maxu, is that right?
Yes, Dr.
Yeah.
Tandoh, you pronounced it correctly. You're from Liberia. I'm from Liberia too.
Oh
Hey,
my God, free Liberians. Oh my God, I'm gonna freak out now.
My name is Maxu Hill. I'm a public health professional. I currently work on the grants, federal grants, to improve STI screening among people living with HIV. What else? I'm in New Jersey, and Dr. Gill invited me, and I'm happy to see Dr. Williams here too. So I'm just here to learn.
Oh, awesome! So welcome everybody. This is great. This is a good, nice variety. So what I wanted to do was we have it was Kevin's idea, and I love it, and he gave us like 4 specific questions. So I'm gonna ask that question of our MDs, and then I think we have a discussion after each question to see what other people want to add, or what questions our students want to ask. We'll do it after each question. And when you're answering those questions, then you can probably tell a little bit more of your story, you know, of your background and how you got to where you are today. So the first question is what do you think is the most important thing to be successful in I'll say in professional school, medical or grad or law school? But we're talking to MD, so they only have medical experience for right now. So I'll start with Dr. Gill.
Okay, thank you. So what helped me and what I'm going to say is it's important to not procrastinate. Medical school work is a lot of material and it moves fast. Your day moves fast. So what helped me was to every day have a schedule where I would make sure that I review the day's work. You know, it's amazing. I can't, for me, I can't overstate that enough. I went to school in Canada. I came from McGill University. I went to college very young. So I started everything young. And so coming from Canada down here to live at home with my parents in New Jersey and going to medical school, it was in my culture, you know, your family, you the kid, and you do all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the stuff, you know, walk the dog. And I'm saying, well, mommy, I'm in medical school. You know, I don't have the time to do all that stuff, but you got to do all that stuff and then do your schoolwork. And so I had to really, really focus on every day after school, reading what I learned from that day, preparing for the next day, so I could stay on track. Because once you fall behind, it's a lot to catch up on. So for me, I would say the most important thing is don't procrastinate, stay on top. If you don't understand something, ask the professor right away. Don't let it build up because it's difficult to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gill. Dr. Williams?
Yeah, I would ditto what Dr. Gill said. I think that that's really important. I would say that trying to develop a routine or discipline routine or rhythm can really help you with managing, because one of the challenges in medicine is just a huge amount of information that comes at you for those 2 to 4 years that you're in training. So that would be one thing. And then the other thing is, I think in terms of attitude, I would recommend you should consider your career, should pursue it more as a marathon and not a sprint. And that you want to have one quality that's really important in getting through this is perseverance. I think really deciding to just stick with it and not to give up. And certainly, it's already been mentioned, the willingness to get help when you need it, to really be assertive and aggressive and doing whatever you need to keep going and to get through it, because it really feels more like a marathon than a sprint.
Right, right. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Dr. Broyles?
Well, of course, since I got to come up with the questions, I've got a well thought out answer.
Of course.
No, I actually, I don't know why, but I got stuck in P's a while ago. And so there's a military saying that says prior planning prevents poor performance. And it gets to be what Mackie was saying, really, is to be prepared, another P there. But, and when I became a Christian, then I added plus prayers. So mine was prior planning plus prayer prevents poor performance. And with that is kind of what Dr. Williams said as well. Uh-oh, I called him Dr. Williams. I said I wouldn't do that. But I think that what enables us to be successful is, number one, keeping a perspective. This is professional school. This is a process. We're learning, and kind of keeping the perspective. I think that when we make the molehill a mountain, we can lose that perspective and get really discouraged. And with that comes just, I think, what Marcus said was just being patient. I mean, we're trying to learn, so just being patient,
right.
And realize it'll take more time to learn some things than it will other things. And the final thing is just the perseverance, as has been mentioned. Really just not having that attitude of quitting or giving up, but just really being perseverant, And so I think the patience, the perseverance, and the perspective are very important in order to make it through those 4 years of medical school.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's excellent, because I mean that's exactly what I was just thinking about, me going through medical school and me being here. I've been in this position for probably about almost 9-10 years now, and just saying that I think one of the most important thing is that perseverance is important. And then the one thing I wanted to say is if when you know you need help, right? It's important to not hide. We have the tendency to, right? We come into these various environments and we're like, oh, we're here, we're supposed to do good. And the first trouble or difficulty we have that tendency to hide. And what I found is that there are a lot of people here to help. There are a lot of people everywhere you are to help. And if you got to be willing to go and get that help. And that's how you're going to prevent that poor performance. I think the perseverance is definitely key overall. So I want to open it up for questions. We've had a few more people join. Hi, Emma. Hi, Ikua. Hi, Miss Mary. Just join. So the first question, what we're discussing was, what do you think is most important thing to be successful in medical school?
Margaret, could I add something?
Yes.
So I recently, about a year ago, read a book called Extreme Ownership. It's actually an atypical book I would not normally read. It's actually about the Navy SEALs. It's probably kind of crazy, but the whole principle of that was to own everything that you have control over. And I think to get through medicine, one of the things that I found is that if you own both your strength and your weaknesses, meaning you take responsibility to figure out how to get around the things that you're weak in while you build up the things you're strong in, I think it can help you be successful. And that ties into part of, Margaret, what you're saying about also being willing to ask help when you need to. And I remember when I was in med school, there were sometimes I would get a difficult professor or a difficult attending, and my tendency was to blame them,
right,
instead of figuring out, I just needed to figure out what I needed to do to get through that, and not blame them because of personality or whatever. So, but what I've learned over the years is that if I'm willing to sort of the things I can't control now is to just own those things and not make excuses, it goes better, because then when I have issues, I'm struggling, I'm trying to figure out how to fix that and not blame somebody else. And I think in medicine, that's really important because things can happen so quickly. If you're not doing that, you can find yourself very bitter and really behind in your studies instead of just being humble and trying to go after it.
Right, very true.
Margaret, I was going to add something too, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the things I've tried to encourage young professionals, whether it's medical school or otherwise, is really to just love learning. I mean, you go into medicine, you're going to have to be a lifelong learner or you will not be a good healthcare professional because we have to keep up with things. And just to love learning. When I finished my residency, I did a fellowship in academic medicine and just was thrilled with the process of learning how to teach. And then after that, I got a master's in leadership and just learning how to lead in medicine because you're really not taught that. A lot of people think you should be a leader just because you're a healthcare professional, but that isn't necessarily so. But I think one thing that's helped me through these tough times, because granted, med school, law school, gee whiz, it's like trying to drink from a fire hydrant. It just comes at you so fast. And by the way, for you law students out there, you know, I took a class in your law school. It was healthcare law and policy. You guys don't have enough pictures in your books. I was bored to death. And so, you know, good luck to you guys. But there were just no pictures. So, but I think what helps you get through the rough spots is to say, man, what a privilege it is to learn. What a privilege it is to be able to be exposed to this body of knowledge and to be able to assimilate it into my life and then be able to give it to somebody else. And just what a privilege it is. And I think that enthusiasm about learning really changes the way that we approach things, you know.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking to say that about just the whole approach to learning. And I'm glad that Kevin spoke to it because you have to be willing to explore. I mean, for me, you know, because every semester you're learning something different and it's so exciting and you're building on things that you learn. So it may seem like, okay, why am I doing, you know, this particular course? I don't get it. Immerse yourself in that course because that course, believe it or not, connects to the subsequent courses you're going to take so that things make sense. And just keeping an open mind and that willingness and an eagerness to want to explore. And I'll tell you this, don't be impressed by the complainers. There are always naysayers in medical school, especially the first year is hard. The first year is hard. And you know, it's funny because, you know, like I said, I came down from Canada, came here to medical school, live with my parents, and I get to school and I didn't know anybody. So all the kids had done like some summer programs before. They were all US graduates, kind of new people, kind of sort of. And I came in and I'm telling you, like, I didn't know who to kind of be to make into my circle of for my friends, right? And there were some people who just bitterly complained. They just complained. Everything was so terrible. And then the second year was telling me, oh my gosh, that is so terrible. And I'm saying, my goodness, everything is so terrible. So I have to kind of step back and say, okay, you're just gonna have to walk this walk. Don't let other people's negative experience be yours. Right. You can hear the stories, but don't hang your hat on that.
Right. Right. I think that's very true. Any response from the students? Any questions or anything right now? Well, let's go on to Nicole.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was curious as kind of to hear anyone's perspective regarding like student burnout and how to like tackle that and how to overcome it when you feel like you've plateaued. I can definitely say personally, I've had a few of those so far first year. So
right, yeah, that leads right into the next question about stress. And Kevin wrote, how do you decrease the stress? I almost want to say, how do you cope with the stress? I don't know if you can really decrease it, but how do you cope with the stressors of medical school? I'll start with Marcus then.
That's a great question. It's pretty, I don't know, that's pretty challenging because it does get really intense and you don't always have control of your schedule or your time. But I guess in my life, I think a couple of things. One is I tried to hold on to a couple of hobbies so that when I could escape, which wasn't that often, but when I could do something like, for example, I'm a closet drummer. So I would occasionally drive everybody in my apartment complex crazy, but it was a great way to release stress. So that was one of the ways that I would do it. Health is really important. So I would run a lot in fitness. And again, you don't always have control of your schedule, so you have to catch it while you can. And then, you know, at the time that I went through medical school, I was already married. So I think relationships and support systems can also be somewhat helpful to have either friends or a partner or someone who can, you can just be able to talk about things and be able to release. But I don't know what others would say. I remember that year or two, man, it was crazy. And but you know, after every exam, right, and you there's a little pause. That's the time to go and you know, do your hobby or go spend some time with friends. But you take every moment you can to decompress. You should definitely take it because it starts right back up.
Mackie?
Yes, I know that's a great question. I'm glad that Kevin has it there, and I'm glad that Nicole asked that question. And I'll tell you a couple of things, and I'll speak directly to Nicole because she experienced it, feeling the burnout. Know what to shave off. You really have to look at your schedule and say, okay, what am I really doing? So I've got medical school, I have the classes, and I have this other stuff that I'm doing. Because I tell you, the medical students now, they're so overly ambitious. You know, when they come and they rotate with me, like even when they ask me to write a letter of recommendation and I read the stuff they've been doing, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're curing world hunger. You know, by the second year, they've already figured out, you know, how we can increase, you know, food supply in Southeast Asia. So I feel like the pressure is almost self-imposed, and it could be because you guys are also competitive, you know, and everybody's trying to outshine the other. But I tell you, for an individual to make it, one, you got to look at your skills and say, what can I shave off? What can I put to rest? You can't do everything at the same time. Okay, is you can do certain things now, and then something else will have to wait. So you do the other thing later, and you got to understand you have one body and one mind. You have to take care of it. Something that helped me was I would take mental staycations, and what I mean by that is you have. I would set my mind. I would purposely decide that okay, this is stressful. I'm going to exam time, and I will not let my adrenaline level stay high. I'm not going to constantly remind myself that I'm going to exam, I'm approaching exams, right? I'm going to mentally control that anxiety, that pressure, because if I'm constantly thinking about this exams are coming, what I haven't done, what I haven't done, it puts me in a state of panic and I can't really think clearly. So I would do these mental staycations where I would make myself really just go into a safe space mentally. It starts mentally. And then you can be able to say, okay, now that I'm stable mentally, I'm not overly anxious about this stuff. How can I then look at my schedule and break this thing up so I can accomplish the things that I need to accomplish? And I'm telling you, I will say it again, stay away from the naysayers. Those negative words you hear, those complainers, it sinks in without you realizing it. And then the anxiety starts again. So mental staycations, decrease your anxiety, break things down to little pieces, realize certain things will have to be staggered. And I tell you, when I was in medical school, like, I couldn't do all the hanging out things that people were doing because actually I lived at home. My parents were very strict because, like I said, I was very young. So it kind of helped me because then I was forced to kind of stay home. She wouldn't let me go to the movies. I couldn't do this, I couldn't do the other. And so I would stay home. I have to rest, get your sleep. And again, the naysayers, keep your mind protected from negative talkers, because that puts on extra anxiety on you, so you do not burn out. Small pieces, map out your schedule, stagger things, all right? You can't do it all at one time. You are president, I just heard, of the SNMA. Okay, that's a huge responsibility in your first year. That's quite impressive. First year, I was trying to find out which way, how do I get around New Jersey? You managed to do that in your first year. I was a part of SNMA. I wasn't taking any leadership roles back then at that time. But, make sure that you protect your mind and your body. Rest, small pieces, make your schedule, and be extremely disciplined. Build in their rest, exercise.
Thank you, Mackie. Kevin?
Thank you.
Sure. I think I really appreciate you asking the question, Nicole, because I think that demonstrates something that's important when we're feeling burned out, is to be open about it. And when people start doing the spiral and going down is when they're just not open about what they're feeling, and they feel like they're all alone and nobody else is feeling burned out. And then once you start talking, you find out, everybody's feeling burned out, But I think being open is important, and the things that have been said are very good. I appreciate what Mackie said. I try to surround myself with positive people who see the good, who see the positive, and because there's always a balance there. And because I know for me, if I get negative in my thinking, I become more burned out, and just trying to be positive. I definitely ran a lot in med school. I don't know if I was running towards something or away from something, probably a little bit of both, but I just ran. I know Marcus is a big runner, but it was helpful just to get those endorphins kind of out there and just get out and run. And I think it's just important to realize this is not going to last forever, to kind of keep that perspective as well. And there will be a hard climb up. I do a lot of hiking. And, when you're climbing up that mountain with that pack on your back and you're sweating and you're tired, you don't think you're going to make it. I always look for little positive things along the way, like that little flower that's blooming in the ray of light there in the woods, And then I always say to myself, I will get to the top. And when I get to the top, there will be a breeze and a vista. There'll be a view. And it's the same way in life, My first year of med school, we'll talk about it maybe in a minute, was horrific. It was just terrible. And, but we will get through it, And so I think that's the key.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I totally agree with what everybody said. I remember I went to Meharry, and I think there was like so many stresses for me. I was an international student at the time. I didn't have any money. So I didn't even know how I was going to pay for being in medical school, let alone live and eat and stuff. And so that was that one stressor, what was going to happen to my visa. And then besides that, and then there was school, right? You have to do well. But I think the way I saw it, and the way I still see a lot of things, is like, well, other people made it through, so I think I can make it through too, having that perspective. But just really, like you all were saying, just I'm trying to see if I had a hobby in medical school. I did not. I can't even lie. I didn't. I braided people's hair, but that was for money. That was not a hobby. That was because I had to. But I think definitely taking some time. You have a break, Nicole, and everybody else. I think definitely having a hobby, something to distract you, is very helpful. I recently discovered fishing, and it's like one of the best things like ever. I found that sitting there with I'm not catching anything, but my whole mind was just so clear. Like there was no worries. I was literally sitting on the rock for hours. There was like literally no worries. My mind was just clear, and it's like an incredible feeling. So I agree with everything that's been said. So the next question I think is an excellent one. Is how do you handle failures? How do you handle trips and falls? And it sounds like Kevin has a good story for us. So I'm gonna I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with Kevin.
Uh, yeah. I'm best when I'm just being humbled. So this will do it. I wanted to share this story actually, especially for any student, but I think often we get in our mind's eye that, you work hard, you excel the whole way, and you pass all your tests and your bar exams and your LSATs and your boards and your MedCats and you just breeze right on into, life as a professional. And yet for some of us, it can be really challenging. The school can be really challenging. And, for me, I don't think I'm necessarily the sharpest pencil in the box, but I am extremely perseverant. I don't let go. And I think what's got me through life is I just don't quit. And, but my first year med school was really rough for me. There was a lot of things going on in my own life. I was actually accepted very early to medical school. I was at the University of Florida, and I just wasn't ready yet. Actually, I would have been one of those people that would have done well with a gap year, But I went right out of undergraduate at Florida State and then into medical school. And then there were a lot of tremendous family issues that were going on, a very unstable family situation, single mom with a lot of struggles. And I was the oldest male child. And so I felt like, and school was in my hometown. I hadn't moved away to go to school. I was at home. And so it was very difficult, and I wasn't ready for the rigor. I really wasn't. And I didn't do well. In med school, you can flunk out of med school by making D's. They don't give you F's. But there were a couple of courses that to this day still haunt me, but that I just didn't do well in. And the school could tell. They just said, you seem to be struggling. And that's one thing I do appreciate, that when you're open about what's going on, you've got people who care, and they're going to try to help you. And what we tell ourselves is if I'm open about this, they're going to just kick me out because they're going to say, well, you just can't cut the mustard. You're out of here, And that isn't the case at all. They really have a vested interest in seeing us succeed.
Right.
And so nevertheless, I was, they said, hey, we just think you need to take a year off, go do something you'll enjoy. I actually went to work in the emergency department as a nurse technician, one of the most exciting years of my life. And I really realized how much I loved medicine, and I didn't want to let it go. And then I repeated my year of med school. I made straight A's the next time around. Life was different, and had some challenges even after that with testing and stuff. But I wound up going to Duke, and, Duke's, it's not too shabby of a place, and doing my residency there, my fellowship, and my master's degree. And so I think what I want to say there is that when you're struggling or when you're having a difficulty or when you failed a subject or whatever, it isn't the end of the world. What really counts is the attitude you have about that. I am not going to give up. This is a dream. I know I want to do that. Maybe it was helpful for me to go and have my dream renewed after that first year and work in the emergency department just as a technician and enjoy medicine. And, but I think it's just that attitude of just not giving up, being open about what's going on, and just being willing to kind of persevere through that. And so failures become incredible learning opportunities.
Right.
And for me, I learned so much about myself and about studying and, having balance and boundaries. I just learned a lot, and I carried it with me. So again, it's about perspective. So that's my story.
Thank you, Kevin. Mackie?
Yes, I tell you, The reality is everybody falls.
Right.
Nobody's an expert at everything, right? So
Right.
there'll be something that will be a challenge for you and something that will not be a challenge for you. Some people, you know, can can sit there and study the books and get it and do well. Some people can sit there, same amount of time, study the books and not do well. I think what I'll say is for you to, for anybody going through this kind of rigorous program, is to recognize that, you know what, when, if I don't do as well as I'm supposed to do, um, and I have a difficult time in that trip, it is what it is, a trip. You get back up. And to get back up, you may need to get the help from other people, whether it's your positive friends who are doing well, whether it is your professors. I know for me, like I did very well in medical school, and I tell you, in the third year, when I did my medicine rotation, I had a very challenging time, very challenging. I was afraid I was going to fail. And I think it's because at that time I was third year and I felt I was a little independent. I had moved out of my parents' home. I had claimed independence. I'm not sure whether that was good or bad, but, and I had a hard time balancing my schedule because I started taking on a lot of other things. I started getting involved in a lot of other things. And I realized, oops. I had to scale back, but I had a challenging time. So it was traumatizing for me to have to struggle so much in that clerkship and almost not passed, right? And so I had to slow down, reevaluate what I was doing, look at my schedule, say no to certain things because I needed to not fail the class, you know. So you got to have this honest conversation for yourself. You got to understand if you trip, that's all it is. It's a trip. You get back up, gather around to people who can help you. And once again, it starts with the mind. I really try to protect my mind because what I let into my mind can direct what I do. So you got to have those reaffirmations where you're telling yourself, I made a mistake. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get help so that I can come out on the other side. And that's what I would encourage you guys to do, whether you're doing law or you're doing medicine, any kind of professional school. It's going to be difficult because otherwise then everybody can do it, right? But everybody can't do it. So because it's difficult. So once you are on that road, you've decided you want to do this and you recognize it's going to be difficult and you're going to have some falls. But when you fall, be ready to get back up and not spend too much time focusing on the fall. Learn what made you fall and then correct that and get assistance with correcting that.
Right. Marcus?
Yeah, so both Dr. Broyles and Dr. Gill both really had great comments on that. And I think that the reality is we all will fail at some point in our career and in our life. And when you look at medicine, actually, when you the first 2 years of medical school is really more academic in most institutions, and the second two are more clinical. And so sometimes people have different skill sets, and they may excel in one and then struggle in the other. Right. So we all face that. What I thought I could do is share a couple of things that I faced in my own life as a way to just show things that could happen. The first is, as a pre-med student, when I applied to med school the first time, now I was graduating from Yale University. I just knew I was going to get into med school. And I applied to all these schools. I didn't get in. I did not get in. And it was devastating, right? And so what I learned from that, though, was one is my essay was terrible. And I didn't listen to my advisors. I tried to write it on my own. There were a few grades I needed to spur up, and I hadn't tried to figure out a way to improve that. And so what I did was I spent a summer working in a lab to show that I was interested in science. And I spent a whole summer going back to the group that was trying to help me. And we rewrote my essay. And then I got into 4 medical schools the next year and went on for training. So probably there were some, I needed to do some growing up. I think that I needed to learn more humility and listen and allow the help that I needed. So, but I also want to stress as a common theme that comes through this is perseverance, like Kevin says. If you want it bad enough in medicine, it's not necessarily how bright you are. It's about how bad you want it and how hard you go to work for it. Because if you persevere, most people would do this. And I especially want to stress that for people of color, because a lot of times you'll just sort of give up or think that's not it. Or you may get people who are biased advising you to quit or give up. Please do not listen to them. You figure out, you find an advocate who can tell you the truth, but also advocate to help you figure out how to get around that obstacle and not just sort of say it's over. So that's one example. Another example was when I was doing my clinical clerkships, you know, I thought I was going to really blow it out. I did this whole clerkship in one of these rotations. I knew I was going to get honors, and, you know, I barely passed. I was shocked. And I didn't understand, well, how did that happen, right? But what I learned through that was I needed to ask more questions through my experience about how it was going and communication. And this is important for a few reasons, because when you begin to get evaluated in a lot of those things, they're a little bit subjective, right? And with subjectivity, bias can come in, right? And communication and culture comes in. And for example, if I'm working with a white male surgeon, he may have a very different worldview than me and a different idea of what it means to be really good at what you do. And whether I agree with him or not, I need to pass that class. So I need to at least understand his worldview and his language. So I began to ask at the beginning what the expectation was, in the middle, and at the end. So I was not surprised after that. Whenever I got my grade, I knew exactly why. And I felt better about that. But those were two challenging lessons that I learned through this process. And those are skills, as Kevin talked about. These things you learn are opportunities, because you'll take those lessons with you the rest of your life and other endeavors that you do.
Right. Thank you very much. I wanted to share about. I remember. For people that don't know medical school, so after your 4 years, you apply to these different places for your residency, and then you make a list. It goes into there's a whole system. It's a national system, and you go in, and if the hospital likes you, and you rank them, and then you match. So the third Friday of March every year, you know, the whole country, every resident learn where they've matched. So I remember the year when I applied, I was a fourth year. It was 97. I was graduating from medical school, and now I knew I was, you know, I did not have a hint of a doubt that I wasn't going to match, because number one, I was one of the top 5 people in my class. I was AOA my junior year. AOA is like the honor society. You know, I had it all. So I was like, it's just a matter of which Harvard program I was going to be going to. That's how confident I was. You know, I had interviewed at all of them. You know, Howard wanted me to go. I went to Meharry. Howard wanted me to go there. I was like, no, I'm not doing Howard. You know, I'm just going to do the Harvard program. Even when I interviewed at BU, Boston University, and the guy was like, you know, where else did you interview? And I told him Harvard. He's like, why are you here? And I was like, well, you'll be my backup. You know, like, you know, he didn't like that. But I mean, I tell you, I was confident. Guess what? So the match week starts on the Monday. So the Monday you find out if you didn't match. And then Friday, Monday you will get a call and I get a call. If you don't get a call, you know you've matched, and you'll find out where you're going on Friday. So Monday, our admissions office, the medical student office is looking for me. I'm like, no, you guys have a mistake. I didn't match. I was like, there's something wrong. There's no way I didn't match. I said, you guys gotta go back, and this is like, no, Margaret, you did not match. And I thought my world had just caved in right then and there, because I was like, this is the end of it. You know, all that work I put in for the 4 years, and what everybody has said, a trip is just a trip. It was just, that's all it was. And you had to, and so I was like, that shock, you know, I went into this, I can't even describe how depressed and almost suicidal I became. because you know you don't match, and then so Monday you find out you don't match. You got to get ready at the time. So Tuesday and Wednesday is called the scramble. So all the hospitals that haven't matched either, they're looking for they're looking for you. They're looking for workers, and so the workers looking for a place. So literally, it's like a phone call and fax machines at the time. Now they have it all computerized, but it literally was like fax machine, and your advisors are faxing stuff on the phone with them. And I got a place at Case Western. Mind you, I had rotated at Case Western for a month, and when I left there, I said, you know, I'm never coming back to this place. But it was just for me, it was an incredibly hard and difficult time, because you know I was like, man, I think a lot of it was how other people was gonna see me. It wasn't so much, you know, it was like, oh my God, it was the shame, right? It's like, wow, she didn't match. Oh my God, how can that possibly be? You know, but I think that was more in my mind saying, oh, you know, everybody's gonna think very little of me because I didn't match, and that was not the case. But you know, at the time when you're going through things like that, or you get a failure in a class, you know, you just think that's the worst thing, but know that you can rise up. You can rise up above that, and you can actually help. You can actually help people with those experiences, because I think everything happens for a reason. And now looking back at my life, going to Boston would have been horrible for my development at that time. That would not have been a good fit. And I'm so glad. I think God saw that was not the place for me to be, and He was like, I'm going to teach you a little bit of lesson. You know, it was a hard lesson to learn. But what I wanted to ask though for my MD folks was, how do you weather that when those other people, the people that you think should be cheering you on, are the one telling you, you know, it's time to quit? You know, I know Kevin touched on it a little bit, you know, and how do you weather that, you know, when it's like, because I've had some experiences here with some of our students, you know, and it is those people that you think supposed to be looking out for you that are saying, well, you know, you sure you want to do this medical school thing? How do you overcome that?
Well, I think one of the things, so when I finished med school, I mean, I had one of the residency directors says, why in the world are you applying at Duke? You know, you are, you know, you're not the AOA guy.
Right.
You know, I called myself the BOB, bottom of the barrel. But actually, I really consider myself to be COC, cream of the crop. But nevertheless, I just remember, wow, you know, that was harsh.
Right.
And you know, and my feeling was, if it's meant to be, it will be. And I remember going up to Duke, kind of nervous because, you know, gee, it's Duke, you know. And I had the best interview, and they hired me not because of my board scores and my grades and everything. They hired me because they said, we like this guy. He's, you know, he's positive. You know, he is enthusiastic about what he's doing. And my first year at Duke, I got an award as a resident. It was a very prestigious award about being the most well-rounded, well-balanced resident. And that was pretty amazing, coming from, you know, hearing in my ear, why in the world are you even going up there to do it? And so I think the thing is, we just got to hold on to our dreams. I mean, I think of myself sometimes as a Jack Russell. You know, the dogs, the Jack Russells, they just clamp on and they don't let go. You can shake their body around and they're just not going to let go. And we just can't let go of our dreams. We really can't. And I think when I hear the naysayers, I move away. I'm like, yeah, you're not the kind of friend I need right now. I need a friend who's going to encourage me. Certainly I need someone who's going to be honest, but you know, and just I'm not letting go of that dream, because I can tell you, gee whiz, 30 years later, I absolutely love what I do. I am so passionate about medicine. I'm so glad I get to do this. I just absolutely love it. And people say, are you going to retire? And I'm like, what's retirement? I'm not going to retire. I love what I do. So what a gift to be able to do something you love doing. So just hang on to your dreams.
Yeah, hi, this is Mackie. I just have to speak to this, because I tell you, I have to be careful not to get emotional. I really, really get hurt. It really hurts me when I hear people tell people you can't do this, or you are a failure, or all those negative things, because you already feel like you've disappointed yourself.
Right.
And now you got someone who's in the amen corner, piling it on and telling you, yeah, you're a failure. Yes, you're right. You're right for thinking you are a failure. And let me let you know you really are a failure. Because not everybody can handle those kinds of things. You already feel bad about yourself, and then you got people telling those things. So I tell you, I'm very, very particular about telling people you got to protect your mind. You got to protect what you allow to be digested. I'll tell you a little bit of my story. When my parents sent me to college, my first 2 years of college was to do business, because my father had a business that he wanted for me to take over in Liberia. I had been working there, because I liked it when I was in high school. And I graduated from high school with the top score in accounting that the school has ever had in the school's history. So my father said, you see, you're supposed to be a businesswoman. But I like medicine. So the first 2 years of college, I did business. And I said, Dad, I just can't do this. I have to switch. So he was very upset. I switched to science, and they were not pleased. So the reason I'm telling you this is because when I applied to medical school, I was in Canada, and the letters came to my parents' house, and they didn't even tell me. I missed so many interviews. I happened to come, I came down, for something, for the weekend or something like that, and I go in the pile of mail, and then all these letters for interviews I had missed. And I called the people, and one of them was able to interview me that day. He said, if you come, I'll interview. I was cooking. I left the food, and I got on the bus. I didn't know how to drive, and I went to this interview. And that's the first interview I go on, and they accepted me, right? I got accepted to that school. But I'm saying this to say that my parents were not pleased that I went into medicine. So I did not have any support from my family that was going to medicine. Remember, it was going against the plan, right? I have friends telling me, you're never going to get into medical school, because it's so impossible to do. They have been trying for many years and they couldn't get in. I have friends say, oh, I had to do a master's. I'm doing a PhD. I'm trying to get into medical school. I still can't get in. The naysayers, my parents, they don't care one way or the other. They're not even supporting me trying to get into medical school. And then your friends, so it was just me. So I had to really tell myself, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do it. My best friend said to me, you know what, Maggie, if this is what you want to do, so what if everybody around you who are in biology and chemistry, who have been trying to get into medical school at McGill University and couldn't get in, so what if they didn't get in? It doesn't have to be your story.
Right.
And so I got into medical school, and I kept going since that time. But there were people who I met along the way in medical school actually end up failing because they believed what the counselor said to them. Like, listen, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. Why you keep trying?
Right.
And I had a person take one of them on the mountain. Listen, you are going to do this because you are going to make a great physician. He's an anesthesiologist today. I said to him, he failed. I said, I'm going to tutor you, because he was so depressed. I was afraid he would hurt himself because he really believed that he was a failure. Right. And he ended up repeating the first year, but I said, I'm going to mentor you. And he's married to an attorney, and he's an anesthesiologist today. And I'm so grateful that I was able to hang in there with my friend Terrence. But, it really bothers me because not everybody is strong enough to say, I can do this. Right. So you gotta remember that if you fall, or if you trip, or if you have some negativity around you, that's all it is. Right. You hang on.
Right.
Okay.
And I would add that in addition to that, you should try to seek out as best you can counselors, mentors who can be your advocate. And give you an example, there was a student at one of the universities in New Jersey, and he was doing pretty good in school. He wasn't at the top of his class. He was an African-American. He was a Black student. Most of the advice he was getting was that he shouldn't apply to medical school. He wasn't going to do it. He wasn't cutting the mustard. And this young man, you know, he was a part of our church. So they brought him to me to work with. And we worked over a year. We worked on his application. He worked really hard to take his MedCats and got the tutoring he needed and whatever. And guess what? He got into med school. He got honest feedback about where he was at, but then the goal was not to say you can't do it. The goal was, okay, this is how you get it, how you fix it, right? And so now he just recently is graduating, is going to be going to Harvard University. It's going to be in the anesthesia program. Mm. Who would have saw that at the time when he was just an undergrad, and where many people didn't see it? The other thing is my experience. I told you about my application. I didn't get into the med school the first time. The other thing I learned was the first time around, I just went to the top professors who I thought would impress the medical schools. Many of them had bias. Right. I'm a young Black man asking for that. And the way you write evaluations, you can write something that appears positive, but really is not, if you get my drift. It's all in how you say it. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I learned was to pick people who would actually write a great recommendation. And that meant I had to have the courage to ask them, will you write a great recommendation? Can I see your recommendation? Can I even get a copy of that? Because that holds a level of accountability. And a lot of people will say, well, but in this era of bias, that made a huge difference, because the next set of things that came around were people who really were my advocate and wrote very powerful letters for me to get me into med school. So it takes a village. So you do need to have the stamina and the character to persevere and not give up. But you also got to fight for advocates or people who can really champion you at the appropriate time. And you need to look for those and latch on when you find those. And definitely, unfortunately, many counselors, many people in our community today will not, particularly for people of color especially, but not necessarily also for gender and for other reasons, may try to talk you out of going into a career in medicine. And you've just got to be able to see through that bias and go find somebody else to say, well, they're not going to help me, but let me go see if I can find someone who can actually help me figure out how to do this.
Right, totally. I completely agree with all of that. I remember my pre-med advisor in college, he told me, he said, Margaret, don't even bother applying to medical school because you're not going to get in. You're an international student, and they really don't accept international students in the medical school in America. So don't even bother applying, So that was stuck in my head. And then I happened to, one of my professors, one of the 4 African Americans in the whole town was one of the professors. And when I told her, I said, I always wanted to go to medical. She's like, oh my God, my friend Brooks happened that the radiologist at the local hospital in Grinnell was a Black man, who would know, in Grinnell, Iowa. And he had gone to Meharry, and he was like, oh, tell her she's got to go to Meharry, So that was from the pre-med advisor saying, don't even apply to. Now I had 2 cheerleaders saying, oh, Margaret, this is where you're going to go. And I was like, Meharry, I haven't even heard of that place, And so, things, like you said, Carol saying, who do you keep around you? Who do you listen to? But I think in our, from where I sit in the medical school here, a lot of times, even some of our colleagues, they mean well, but, what we tell the students, can really bring them down, and say, and so sometimes students just can't see their way out. But like you all saying, you got to persevere, because this is what you want to do. Be honest. I will always be honest with students if you come talk to me. But again, like Kevin's saying, being that Jack Russell Terrier, this is what I want to do. I can't see myself doing anything else, so I'm gonna make it work.
Margaret,
yeah,
I'd like to say, at this point in our careers, when we're going through medical school, it seems so crazy.
Right.
I have a little secret I want to share with the students. When you get to our age, nobody asks your grade or how you did. They don't really care, and they just glad you can help them out. Nobody cares. You have all those credentials on your wall. Sometimes people look at it, but the vast majority are not looking at that stuff. Nobody knows. It's your secret. You just got to persevere and get through.
That is so true.
So true. Yeah. Looking back, like, oh my God, at that time, I thought that was my world was caving in at that time because, I didn't match, but I didn't match the way I was supposed to match. I had a place to go, but I didn't, because I wasn't surprised on Friday, so I thought my world was ending. So it's all perspective, right? So, but we're almost done. And the last question I think was really, is how do you keep a healthy perspective? But I think I'm going to open it up to the students to say, what questions do you have at this point? We have about 14 minutes. If you have any.
Yeah, I had a question. I guess I'm just curious to know how you guys sort of narrowed down. I guess I'm definitely an indecisive person, as I'm like still trying to decide in this last week before enrolling. So I guess it's kind of like a multi-part question. If you were deciding between schools, what were some of the like final factors? And then even when it comes to specialties, what the process was like for you guys to find the one that matched with you and your interests along the way.
All right. Marcus, you got it. He will start with it because he got into multiple.
Okay. I think in terms of schools, it depends, because sometimes if you have the opportunity to have more than one program to look at, you want to try to, if there's a way to interview and sort of get a feel for the culture, that's important. I've always asked the question, well, I'm going to say I always, but I'm always sort of in my back of mind looking at, well, can I be human if I go here? Or will it be so just oppressive that just would be hard to be human and be fun? It's not always that easy in medical school, though, to tell that. But I think that to the extent that you can, by interviewing students, if you get a chance, and asking them, what's it like here? Are you happy here? What is the support? It's really important if you have a school where the staff is extremely supportive, they're really approachable, versus being in an ivory tower. Those kind of things can be helpful, I would think. In terms of specialty, just real quick, I think there's 5 things I talk to students about. One is, and basically it relates, first of all, do you feel it's a calling? Is it a talent or skill of yours? Is it an interest? Number 2, can I do this and stay human? Meaning, can I still maintain great relationships if I'm married, raise my kids? Number 3, what is the lifestyle I want? Do I like being in a hospital with on call? Or do I want to be more in practice, not on call? Do I want to work part-time? Do I want to have a family? Or am I going to be more about career? Those are really, really important questions that may help shape how you choose a specialty, because they all vary in terms of what the demands are. There's a lot of things that we can do and be successful at, but I think in a lot of ways we're created often to be called to 1 or 2 things where we can do those things and actually still be a decent human being in the process. So you want to try to figure out what's that good fit for you in terms of that.
Right. I was wondering if any of our students could give Yana, or how did you choose to come to Vermont, versus going somewhere else? I know for me, I only got into Meharry, so that was my one choice. And for specialty, I was going to be an OBGYN since I was in 6th grade. So I came into medical school saying I'm going to be an OBGYN, and that was it. Yeah, that was it. There was a speaker that came to school, and I was like, I'm going to be just like her. And so I saved OBGYN for my last rotation of my 3rd year. And I can still remember the day I was like, this is not it. There's no way I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And then I was like, oh, snap, I got to figure out what I'm going to do now for a living. And all the specialties I had badmouth, I had to go back and like, okay, so surgery was a default. I'm not even lying. I was like, okay, least of the bad. So that's the one I'm gonna end up with. That's how I ended up with surgery. But I let other people decide how they chose the school.
I'll tell you, it's interesting. So I got it. So yes, it's the dilemma that I had to face, right? So I applied to all these medical schools. I was in Canada and I applied to places where my friends were, you know, that I grew up with. And I applied to, it was really weird. I applied to where my best friend were, my friends were, who I knew, you know, because I didn't know the States. I mean, I visited the States, but I didn't really know, and I was pretty young and pretty afraid. And my parents had put this healthy fear of the States in my mind that, you got to be this, that, and the other. So that was my safety net, to apply to schools where I knew people were. And then I applied in New Jersey to all the 2 schools in New Jersey because my parents lived in New Jersey. And I figured, okay, I should apply there. How I chose where to go, my dad says to me I was very pathetic in my decision, because when I got accepted to these schools, I didn't know how to drive. And I said to myself, how am I going to get to classes? So I had to take a school on the bus line. So when I said to my dad I was going to go to Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School because it was, the town over, I could take the bus, he says that is the most pathetic reason to accept a school, because you don't know how to drive. You need to learn how to drive. And I was definitely afraid. I didn't learn how to drive a car until I was a 3rd year medical student, when we had the clerkships, and I bought a car for my best friend, and my friends from medical school taught me how to drive, because we all had to go to different hospitals for our clerkships, and they said, we didn't batch up. You're going to this one and I'm going here, and so I couldn't get a ride from them. So that was my choice for medical school. Why I went, so it doesn't really make sense. In the field that I chose, I mean, when I started medicine, I really wanted to do like Margaret OBGYN, because I was going back to Africa, but I really, really liked to understand why people got infections, and so I said OBGYN. I said, if I did that, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed orthopedics. I enjoyed all my rotation except pediatrics and psych. So those 2 things I knew I was not doing. But everything else I enjoyed. But then I said, going back to Africa, we don't really, have all the technology to do OBGYN, and we have midwives. So I said I would switch to something that would help the people. And then I went into medicine. Little did I know I would become a follower of Jesus, and then marry someone from New York, and who said, well, we're not going back home to your home. We're going to stay here. And so that's how I ended up not going back home. But so my career chose me. So I did internal medicine. I did infectious diseases, right? Because I was going back to Africa, married. But then the job chose me. The field I'm in really was, I learned the field. Spinal cord medicine was not even a fellowship when I started doing it. Spinal cord medicine was created in the VA system because of the military people coming back from the wars and dying from complications from SEI. And so the VA has always had developed this whole system of care called spinal cord medicine. And my mentor in the chairman of the department wanted me to stay within the system. And he said, why don't you take this job, please? And I'm like, what? Oh, I hated doing consults on spinal cord medicine. I'm not going there. And make a long story short, he forced me to take the job. And I promised I'll work with him for 1 year. And I've been there ever since. And I grew up there. So now I'm the department chair. And now it's a full fellowship that is on a PM&R. But so the career chose me. And with that came my specialty in multiple sclerosis. I'm a certified multiple sclerosis specialist, and then also ALS. So it all kind of, it found me. So I'm really kind of like a Renaissance woman. I did internal medicine, infectious diseases, I'm spinal cord medicine, and I'm multiple sclerosis specialist and ALS specialist. So it's kind of funny, but that's my story. So I try not to tell people how to choose, because my story is real strange. It really is. My career chose me, and I couldn't drive, so the bus, I could have to take the bus. So that's how I chose my school.
You know what, Carol? I learned to drive my intern year.
Oh, so I don't feel too bad then.
You were going to say something?
No, I was just saying thank you very much for your answers.
Okay.
I want to say something to Yana though. Yana, I will tell you this. I will tell you, the school, you got to ask where you want to end up. What do you want to do, right? Because I tell you, I had one of my mentees who got into Harvard, okay? But she chose not to go there because she looked at the lives of the students and she looked at what she wanted as a person. Okay, and then I also have people who got into Harvard and other schools and they chose to go there because they needed that the title. They felt to help them get a good fellowship. They wanted to do things in neurosurgery, so they wanted that name behind them to get into those competitive residency programs. So you got to really look at, so what is it that I want to do? If I want to go into dermatology, which is very competitive, I want to go into neurosurgery, I want to go into ophthalmology. Those are very competitive programs. So you may want to kind of say, okay, maybe I need to go to a school that has a name that they will want. They may want people from those schools to come to the residency. So those are things to consider.
Hey, Emma, you're going to say something?
I was. Is there time for another question?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma. I'm a second-year PA student in Colorado. I'm actually about to start my third year of clinical rotations. Well, this is my third year, and it is clinical rotation. So I finished class in 2 weeks, actually.
Oh, nice.
I'm done. But I guess I was just wondering, or just asking advice for specifically clinical rotations, which is, it's kind of different than residency, I suppose. But I'll be in a different clinic and or hospital every month for a year. So I'll be in a different specialty every month for a year. And I'm pretty intimidated. So I guess if any advice, thank you guys so much for everything you shared about resiliency. I'm definitely, that is speaking to me right now. But, even anything spiritually to study out, or relationships that are helpful, or just mindsets to have, even being in clinical, I would be so grateful to hear your thoughts.
So,
go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I had the advantage of having Emma in Bolivia with us. We were running a clinic in Bolivia, and I can tell you, Emma, you don't need to have any insecurities. You're going to do awesome, because you do awesome wherever you are and whatever you do, because you always work at it with all your heart. And, whether it's something that comes natural to you or something that doesn't. So I think you're going to do great. I loved my rotations, because that is the opportunity you have to be exposed to the different kinds of specialties that are out there for you. And, I think, the prayer would be, God, speak to me when I get to the rotation that you want, where you want me to be. Do you want me to do pediatrics? Do you want me to do adult medicine? Do you want me to do inpatient, outpatient, surgical, medical, and it's actually an exciting time, because you get to learn a lot about the different specialties, and so you'll find out what kind of fits your niche. But remember that no matter what specialty is, the compassion and love that you show to people, your thirst for learning, your eagerness, that's going to shine no matter what, group you're with. And, and you'll do fine. But what will come from the end of that year, the clinical year, will be, you'll have a fairly solid feel for what is your chosen specialty, as a PA. And so I'm excited for you. Congratulations for getting through those first 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. Congratulations, Emma. I was going to say, keep an open mind, it's like almost going, don't do what I did. I remember being my psych rotation, my first day, I raised my hand. I was like, I'm not going to be a psychiatrist. Don't do that. I think you should go in with a completely open mind, and just really enjoy everything. Just take it in, like Kevin was saying, Anybody else?
And then I just wanted to share to Emma, at first, congratulations, you entering the fun part. The hard part is over, now the fun part starts, right? Yeah, but I tell you, it can be intimidating, because you're around all those, attendings, and everybody knows everything, and everybody, I used to sit in awe, just listen to them do the presentations after being on call. I just feel like, will I ever be able to present stuff like that? But ask a lot of questions, read, you know, and that's the tough part, balancing the clinicals and reading, because you have to read, and the more you read, the more you can be one of those making those presentations that people are in awe of, you know. So, and so read, ask a lot of questions, read up on your cases, you know, and don't be afraid to ask. If you don't understand something, ask, you know, ask a lot of questions, because they're there to teach you. Or read, you know, when you get a case, read up on it, see what it says, you know, read it that night when you go home. So this way, the next day, you can be able to ask questions that will help you.
And I would just throw real quickly, and first of all, congratulations. And I agree, the fun part starts, so enjoy the ride. Try to enjoy the ride, because it's different. And then the question I was, when I did my rotation, I did pediatrics, rheumatology, and cardiology, trying to decide which one I wanted. And the question I asked Anise is this: I did this for 30 years, and this is all I did. Could I live with this? And also be observant, not only clinically, but what are the people like? What their personalities like? What is their lifestyle like? And I looked at all that, and at the end of the day, man, I was like, man, I'm gonna be a cardiologist. I like this. This is I see myself in this role. So that would be the only thing I would add to that. So.
All right, I want to be really respectful of all our time. It's 7:32, and I really want to thank Doctors Broyles, Dr. Gill, and Dr. Williams for really taking this time to really engage with our students here. Thank you very much. I thank our students for even joining us. And if there are any last minute questions, we're definitely open. But I wanted to say tomorrow, if you have time from 10 to 2, we're gonna have some other events going on. Steve, you wanna just share about event? I know there's going to be a global health talk, and then
Sure.
There's also going to be more of a wellness, and how do we journey into wellness overall.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thanks for all the presenters and speakers. You guys are amazing, and you can see, for all of us who have attended, you can see why we chose this group of people. There's such a combination of expertise and wisdom and heart. And I think, like Marx was saying, just be that human side of all this, that is so moving. And I know I've been inspired and really learned a lot tonight. And I'm so thankful for you guys. Yeah. And really thankful for everybody who's joined tonight. This is going to be this has been taped. It's going to be something that I hope a lot of people can really benefit from, you know, as they, you know, take part in this digitally, as they, you know, watch a video from it. But thanks again. And tomorrow really is just going to be an extension of tonight. It's going to be, whereas tonight was more for, you know, for med students and medical school students. And I did purposely invite Kai and Keegan to come along, because they are facing law school, and I think there's a lot of similarities in terms of the rigor and a lot of the pressures that they're facing, and that Kai is currently facing in law school. But tomorrow is going to be more kind of for a general audience, and it's going to really be about, you know, really gaining from the wisdom of our healthcare professionals. As to the first session is going to be about global health awareness, speaking to some of the challenges we've been through even over this last year, and then how we can get involved in service, which so many of these of you guys have just really used your gifts to serve in powerful ways around the world. So we're going to get a chance to learn from all that. We've got some new speakers tomorrow, the Ottenwellers, the Sharons, among others. And then in the afternoon session from 12:30 to 2, it's going to be the sacred journey of self-care. So I think we'll be all of us will be able to really benefit from that, as to how to really take care of ourselves well, especially in these challenging times. So anyhow, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks so much, Margaret, for
hosting.
facilitating tonight. This has been extraordinary.
You guys are amazing.
Thank you, Margaret.
Have a